We are welcoming today a true entertainment legend. Stage, screen, music, recordings, you name it, this woman has done it. She's a multi-award winner. She's got an Emmy, she's got a Tony, Golden Globe nominations, just runs the list. The legendary Miss Leslie Uggams is here with us to talk, just to share some things about what you're working on now. We're going to reflect a little bit on your career, your history, but first, how are you?
I'm good. I'm even better because I'm with you.
Oh my gosh, no, we are in such awe. You know, there was a buzz like in the newsroom when we knew that you were coming, but when you hear the words legendary, did you see yourself as a legend? How do you interpret that? I
see myself as somebody that's still trying to achieve and keep working. That's how I look at myself, you know. I just love what I do. I've been doing it since I was a kid, and I'm always setting goals for myself and challenges for myself.
You're in town, well, you live here.
Yes.
You're from New York,
yes,
you know,
yes.
True New York girl. And before we get into your history, we want to talk about your latest project. You're going to be at 54 Below.
That's right. Friday night,
okay,
and Saturday night. I'm doing one show each night, and it's called CLASSIC UGGAMS. And the reason why I call it that, because I'm doing some incredible songs that are not only classic in themselves, but the people that I have worked with throughout my career, like from Louis Armstrong,
right,
Ethel Waters, to Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis, all those great, and the Beatles. I work with the Beatles. And so the show reflects that kind of music and stories about things that I have done in my life.
Now, is it more like a 60-decade chronicle of Leslie's life, or?
No, it's some of it is from when I was a kid.
On Beulah?
And, you know, musical-wise, from the Apollo days.
Okay, Apollo days.
And then some of it is from my Broadway shows that I have done, and then some of it is Beatles stuff that, you know, I work with the Beatles at the Paramount Theatre. The Paramount Theatre was closing, and they were the last act to perform there. And I was on the show, pinching myself, going, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here, and this is fabulous.
How were they?
Oh, incredible. In fact, we were backstage, and Bob Dylan was visiting them. You know, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And Paul and John Lennon looked at me and they said, oh, you know, you remind me of Shirley Bassey. And at that time, I didn't know who Shirley was.
Right.
Later on, we became very good friends. And I said, well, I'm sure that's a wonderful compliment.
Right.
Which, once I got to know, I went, oh my God, to be in her company is amazing. But they were very charming.
You, so it's the 54 Below. It's
yes,
a new theater. It's more intimate, right? Describe it for us.
It is so fabulous. First of all, it's a club, but it doesn't feel like a club. It feels like you're in somebody's living room. There's not a bad seat in the house. It's got great sound, great lighting, and not only that, good food. You know, a lot of times you go to these clubs and you order something to eat and you go, oh my gosh, what am I eating?
Right.
But they have a great chef there, and the great thing about it is it gives opportunities to people like me who are also in the theater to show something that you may not think that they're able to do. You might see them as just a pop singer, and they get an opportunity to do some rock and roll if they want to do it, and they have great people that perform there, and new talent, and talent that's like Patti LuPone and myself, and get an opportunity to work there and come up with a show that's a little different from what you might see us do.
You were born in Harlem?
I was born in Harlem at Women's Hospital, which is now Roosevelt Hospital up in Harlem. But I grew up in Washington Heights, so I'm a Washington Heights girl. You
started out, you played Ethel Waters' niece.
At 6 years old.
On the classic TV show, Beulah.
Beulah, and her boyfriend was Julie Wilson, and for people who love that movie, Casablanca, he was the one that Humphrey Bogart said, play it again, Sam.
Right.
And he played her boyfriend on the show. That was my first television appearance ever. And then after that, there were a lot of kiddie shows when I was growing up. So Maurice Hines and I used to be the black kids that were on the Milton Berle show. So whenever there was kids on doing this, whether it's summer vacation kind of idea or Christmas time, Maurice and I were the kids on that. And then I was on a show called Your Show of Shows with Sid Caesar and Imogene Coca. And at 10. And in fact, it's on YouTube. I sing a song, I'm So Small and You're So Tall, with the Billy Williams Quartet. And then my big break really came when I was on a quiz show as a contestant. Name that tune.
Okay.
And Mitch Miller discovered me because they kept asking me to sing when I was on the show, and he liked what he heard, and he signed me to Columbia Records. I did my first CD when I was 16 years old, my 16th birthday, called The Eyes of God.
Okay.
And then the following year, he sold the idea for Sing Along with Mitch, and then I became a household name.
You came up at a time, you saw so many things, the country was changing.
Yes.
And the images, we've heard Oprah Winfrey say that the images that she saw as a little girl, you know, she saw Leslie Uggams, she saw Diana Ross, she saw Nancy Wilson. You know, these are your contemporaries.
Yes.
You know, did you feel a whole lot of pressure, and how tough?
Oh, yes. When I was doing Sing Along with Mitch, I was 17 years old, and of course, there weren't a whole lot of us on television, you know, so it was like an event. I remember my father used to say when Joe Louis was fighting and everything, and he would win something, people would open the windows in the neighborhood and shout out, "Yay!"
Right.
Well, that happened with me. People would call and say, "She's on," you know, because there just weren't a whole lot of us being represented on television. So therefore, it was a lot of pressure. First of all, I was 17. Here I am on television, not realizing how many homes that I'm going into, but also the fact that for a while the show was not shown in the South because the South didn't want the show because of me, which I didn't know at the time. And they kept Mitch was being pressured by the sponsor and the network to either not have me on or only have me on.
Cut back your time.
Cut back my
your
time,
role.
or do what like they did with Lena, put me in an isolated situation, and then they could cut me out. And Mitch kept saying no, no, no to all of that, and the show became such a hit that the South said, "What are we, crazy?" And then the show was national. But I mean, it was a totally different time. You know, Diane Carroll, she did Julia, and then it was me doing Sing Along with Mitch.
And Nichelle Nichols was on Lieutenant Uhura.
Exactly,
was,
on Star Trek.
You
Yes, yes.
know. You transitioned to Broadway.
Yes.
How tough was that?
Well, you know, it was kind of easy because my Aunt Eloise Uggams, she was in Porgy and Bess, and she was also in a show called St. Louis Woman. So I had been around it from the time I was a little kid, but I got the opportunity because I was doing The Boyfriend in California, which was very interesting because it was the Julie Andrews role that I was doing. Mm-hmm. But there was a lot of buzz, and at the time they were doing this show called Hallelujah Baby, which originally was for Lena Horne, and then Lena decided not to do it, so they wanted to find someone new. And I got to audition, and I got the part, and I had not realized that it was 8 shows a week. But I adapted well, and it was a great opportunity, and I love the theater because it's live, and it's great discipline, and you get to work with great people. On that show, I worked with Julie Stein and Betty Comden, Adolph Green, and Arthur Lawrence, which is very interesting because I'm going to do Gypsy this summer.
Absolutely.
The first time that an African American is going to be playing
Mama Rose.
Mama Rose, and Arthur had wanted me to do the role. When Bernadette Peters was doing it on Broadway, they were talking about doing a road tour, and she was going to do it, and he called me and he said, "And I want you to take over when Bernadette is finished." So when I got offered the part, I was kind of like, I don't know, and then I thought, well, Arthur wanted me to do this, plus I went to school with Gypsy Rose Lee's son, Eric. He went to school with me for about 3 years at professional children's school, so I thought, you know what? Somebody's trying to tell me something.
Now, talking about that, it's called Gypsy, a musical fable, correct?
Yes, yes, a musical fable.
And it's
even
also
though it's
something interesting about the cast. Tell us about that.
Because it's multiracial, which is wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So it's going to be, you know, Hispanic and African American and Caucasian, and I'm looking really forward to it. And it's a great role for a woman. It's kind of like the Medea of musicals because she's pretty tough. But I grew up with a lot of kids who had mothers like that, who were
stage
pushy
moms
and stage moms,
right.
and I saw a lot of bad things happen and a lot of good things happen. And I saw mothers who were living through their kids and pushing the kids even though they didn't want to do it. So it's something that I can look back on and use because I was around that.
They say that that role, depending upon whom in the theater, it's either that role, Mama Rose or Norma Desmond,
Yes,
you know, are like
yes.
the two
Yeah.
iconic, you know, ones as far as Broadway.
Where the woman's
Where the-
it's so dominant and,
Right.
and you know, it's not just window dressing with a man, you know. I mean, this is, there's like 8 songs that she sings by herself.
We have to talk about the impact of a little project that you did in the 70s, you know, and I'm being facetious when I say little. We are talking, of course, about Roots.
Yes.
And landmark, historic, groundbreaking, window shattering, raising the ceiling, opening windows. This miniseries did so many things on so many levels, and if you weren't already a household name, everybody in the world knew who Leslie Uggams was because of your portrayal of Kizzy. When you look back on it, when you got that script, did you know that you would still be celebrated, you know, for that part these years later?
When I got the script, I got 3 scripts for 3 different roles and handed to me, and they said, come back the next day and read for this. And the last script I read was Kizzy, and I thought, oh, this is the role that I want to play. I mean, she just jumped out of the page for me. And when I finally got, and it was a hard role for me to go through to even get the part, because once they accepted me, then I had to do a screen test because I had to play Ben Vereen's mother.
Right.
And with us being so close in age, they wanted to make sure that with makeup, I could make the transition. And unfortunately, the makeup people had no idea at that time what they were doing. And I mean, they were gluing my skin with dryer and the whole thing. And when they finished with me, I looked like a mummy.
Okay.
And then I had to go on the stage, and the producer looked at me, and I could see in his eyes that I was not going to get this part. And I went home in tears, and I said to my husband, I'm not going to get this part because of the makeup. And he found out who did Cicely Tyson's makeup for Jane Pittman, called Stan Winston. Stan Winston, who was adorable, said, no, that sounds like an interesting project. Come on over to my house. We went over, we talked about it, and he created the makeup, said he would do another screen test with me. He did the screen test, and that's how I got the part. So already it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. When I walked on the set to do my part, there was an atmosphere that I had never felt in doing another project before. And Alex Haley was just a dream come true. So you could ask him as many questions as you wanted. We felt that there was something special about the project, all of us, but we had no idea what was going to happen. And the interesting thing about that is that when it was finished, it was not received with love by the head of the network.
It was ABC, right?
ABC.
And David Wolper, I believe, was
Well,
the EP, right?
Yeah, he was the
executive
EP,
producer.
But oh gosh, name escapes me. Who was running the entertainment section?
Silverman, was it Fred I did my research.
Thank you, thank you. He took one look at it and said, who's going to be interested in all that Black history stuff? And so he decided to put it on every night, which changed the whole look of television. And you know, I was in Vegas rehearsing Guys and Dolls, and I never in my life saw casinos empty, and they were empty watching Roots. Anne Margaret called me up, she was performing there, and she said, Leslie, she said, we've changed the showtime. She said, because we're all watching Roots, and the audience is not coming in to see the show. I mean, that's the impact it had. Went to France to do something, and I turn on the television, there I am talking in French. I mean, the impact, as you say, all over the world. It was the most wonderful experience of my life.
It was, you were on you've got Olivia Cole, Madge
Yeah.
Sinclair,
Yeah, oh
Ben
God,
Vereen, Lou
yes,
Gossett, John
yes,
Amos,
yes.
the list goes on,
Yes. And we have reunions. And every time we get together, it's like we saw each other yesterday. I mean, we are still cutting up and acting crazy with
LeVar
each other.
Burton.
Oh my gosh.
Good grief.
Oh my, and it's just, we talk about the experience and how it was magical. And the other thing is that when it was shown, there was a blizzard here on the East Coast. So everybody was stuck in the house. So everything worked perfectly because people, and of course there weren't all these different networks and cable channels.
Right.
So there were only a certain amount of channels then, and so everything worked perfectly. And when those numbers came out, it was like, what?
It set such a precedent, and then you've got the African Americans who were there, and you were a young woman.
Yeah.
How did you
Yes.
find the Kizzy had those scenes with Chuck Connors, how did you find for such a young ingenue? Well, you weren't an ingenue, but you were still a young actress.
Talking to my grandmother.
Okay.
My grandmother was one of 10 children, and the plantation owner had 10 kids by my great-great-grandmother. But the interesting thing is, he built an exact house like his house next to his house for my great-great-great-grandmother, and built a school on the property, and raised this other family. And so I would ask her questions like, and of course nobody wants to talk about that. How did your mother, how did they endure the things? So she would tell me a little bit of the history, but I was very angry during the time of filming a lot of that stuff. I would come home and I'd just have to really chill out because it was just, to treat human beings that way, I just couldn't get over it. But the great thing about the character of Kizzy, she was strong, she was determined, and she was going to make sure that her son, Chicken George, had a better life than she had. And she was a great role model for young women to learn that through all kinds of obstacles, if you believe and you fight hard, you can get through it. And she was able to get through it.
My favorite scene is when Chicken George is about to leave, and Mama Kizzy, I think Tom, your grandson
Yes,
Tom, I can't remember
yes.
Tom's brother's name,
Yes.
but he's about to leave, and Mama Kizzy says, "Tell him the story."
Yes.
You
Well, and that is such a.
You just had this look. It's like, tell him the story, and it was in your eye,
And we should do that today. I think it's so important. If I learned one thing from doing Roots and Alex Haley, is that if we don't tell our families the stories, they'll never know. They need to know what your history was, what your grandparents' history was. That gives them a sense of belonging, and we don't do that enough, and we need to do that. I always feel that you can't go forward if you don't look back.
One of your other contemporaries and one of your fellow New Yorkers, Rita Moreno, was here last year, and I interviewed her, and I asked her about the landscape of television now with all of these reality shows, and she made a comment. She said that she felt that hardworking actors who've honed their crafts are finding themselves unemployed, because
True.
of all of these shows that are just, like non-scripted, and she says it's really tough, for.
Absolutely.
Do you agree?
Well, yeah, because it's cheaper to do the reality shows, and so therefore it's very hard to get the scripts, and there's so few of them that everybody's up for the same part, and there's so much wonderful talent that is not being utilized. I mean, I remember when there used to be dramas all over the place with great people being discovered, or actors who had been doing their craft. They got an opportunity to be on these shows, and now everything is reality. We want to know everybody's business. We don't have any mystery. We want everybody to show everything, and it gets a bit much. I mean, now there's a couple, I have to admit, But I like to watch. But I love, all the cooking shows and, and the decorating shows, and I do love the Braxtons.
You watch that one?
Because I'm a big fan of the Braxtons, talent-wise as well. But she's absolutely right. It's very difficult now to find roles on television.
So you've got this project this weekend.
Yes.
And
54 Below.
54 Below.
Yes.
It's not this.
This Friday. Yeah, this Friday, the 6th and the 7th, and I'm doing one show, 8:30, and this show, as I said, is Classic Uggams, and I tell some funny stories. We address the YouTube story.
Okay. Okay.
And we talk about people that I've worked with, and there's some great songs and a lot of romantic songs as well, and then we do some swinging and rocking, and it's a great show.
Classic Uggams.
Yeah.
And the tour for Gypsy.
Yes, the Gypsy I'm going to be doing at the University of Connecticut. We open July the 10th through the 20th, and we're very excited about it.
Before you get away, there are two things I have to do with you. I have to put you on the spot, but I want to get your thoughts, because it's always neat to ask artists about their contemporaries. So I'm going to say a name, and just whatever adjective, whatever word comes to mind, I just want you to say these are your contemporaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Johnny Mathis.
Oh, what a voice! I thought I was going to marry him. I was so disappointed. I was convinced.
Barbara Streisand.
Oh, what a voice, what a voice. I worked with her when she was just starting, and great, glorious voice.
Diana Ross.
Oh, baby, baby, baby. She was glamorous and took us being a Supreme to a whole new level.
A lot of people always say you and she were like the glamour girls of that. I've read that in Ebony, that Leslie Uggams and Diana Ross were like,
I mean, even off stage, we made sure that when we showed up at an appearance that we looked good, and also on the stage.
And your friends too, I read also. That
I've known Diana for a long, long time.
Well, you think of Aretha.
Oh, the queen. I mean, absolute queen. When I was at Columbia Records, she had just been signed at Columbia Records, so we knew each other very, very well. And the first time I heard her sing, I was like, okay, she sets the standard.
And now that you've known Shirley Bassey.
Yeah, oh God. Well, she shows that she is enduring, because when she was on the Oscars and everybody
and sang Goldfinger?
Thank you. In the same key. Hitting the same notes.
Yeah.
And I went, you working. You working.
And I hope she doesn't get upset, but she was mid-70s when she hit that note.
Hello.
And
yes, and I know some
mid-20s. That's why they stood up.
Yeah. They were like, wait a minute.
The whole Academy stood up.
Yeah, she's fierce. She's fierce.
And Paul McCartney now, you say you've worked with him.
Sir Paul. Oh, well, I mean, he just keeps it going, and his music is timeless. I mean, he's got a whole new generation of people that have discovered the Beatles. What I love about it is all of a sudden music from the past is being discovered again. And I have kids that come up to me, they've discovered Hallelujah Baby, they've bought the CD, and some of them are singing the songs in their show. That tells you when music is really, really good,
The last thing I want to say before we let you go is I have to thank you, because my favorite project of yours, and I'm not sure how often you get asked about it, but I bought all 5 of the DVDs, I believe it was like 3 years ago, on Amazon. But you made a miniseries for NBC that my grandmother, I think you know what I'm talking about, my grandmother and I used to watch it every single night because it was appointment television. So when The Butler came out last year with Oprah and Forrest Whitaker, and people were like, are you gonna go see it? I'm like, no, because I don't want my memories of of what went on in, backstairs at the White House to be disturbed, because I saw a miniseries called Backstairs at the White House with you and Olivia Cole.
Yes.
I was a little boy, but my grandmother made us watch it. And I actually went in my review for Amazon and said, this is for my grandmother, because we watched it.
Oh.
You were phenomenal. I wish that movie would get more, that miniseries would get more attention, than it deserves. But it was exquisite.
It took a long time for it to come out in DVD. I don't know why they took so long, but it went through different people that had bought it, companies, whatever it was, because that was such a magnificent show.
It was well done.
Well done, and this woman was there. at the White House, and she was so talented, and she was there because she sewed beautifully. But the Depression came. She had been working at a dress shop making these dresses. The woman that owned the shop was taking the credit for it,
right.
but those were the times that she lived in. And she had vowed she would never be like her mother working in the White House. And then, of course, the Depression came, and she wound up working there, Lillian. And it was, I spent so much time with her, and she would call me just up until the day she died. Are they ever going to show this show again? And what is so wonderful is that you learn about these presidents and their quirks and that whole situation.
Well, it was, who was it with the finger? Which first lady was that? I don't know if
was it Mamie you talking about?
It was one that whenever she spoke, whenever someone spoke, she'd always put her finger up to say, "No, I'm talking right now." You know,
yes, yes.
The two Mrs. Wilsons. Remember, one passed away, but she came to visit the fictional home.
The fictional home
where you and your Olivia Cole, your mother,
yes,
played.
And the other thing was with Mamie was she didn't want any footprints in the carpet, so you had to constantly run around with the vacuum cleaner trying to make sure, you know, it wasn't done. But, you know, a great cast. I mean, Lou Gossett and Robert Hooks, you know.
Played Eleanor Roosevelt, Elaine Stritch.
Elaine Stritch, oh yes, she was fabulous.
No, it was Eileen Heckart. I think it was Eileen.
No, you're
it was
right.
Eileen. I always get them two mixed up, you know. But no, I believe it was Eileen Heckart.
I'm as bad as you. Yeah. Yeah.
We should probably let everyone know Backstairs at the White House, in case you didn't know, chronicled the story of the first African-American maid and her daughter, who also was the first seamstress, both African-Americans, at the White House. And it chronicled from, I believe, William Howard Taft to your character left at Kennedy's.
Just before the Kennedys came in, I always said to Lillian, couldn't you have stayed like one more time?
So that's my favorite work. And I just want to thank you
wonderful.
For my family, for the FOX5 family, you know, for 6 decades of legendary entertaining and smiling, and continued blessings to you and your family and your career, and you're darn sweet. So nice to meet you.
Oh, well, I love you. I watch you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Uggams, for stopping by.
Thank you for asking me.
No, so glad to see you.